are safe, healthy, and living to their fullest potential. So for the past 25 years, One Place has made a measurable impact on the lives of children and families in Onslow County, from supporting children who have suffered abuse or neglect to providing families with high-quality childcare options. Our mission has remained unchanged: to create hope and offer healing for the children and families. One Place is now at a very exciting juncture. As the population continues to grow, so do the needs of the families. We were founded by a small group of concerned individuals back in 1998, and our name at that time was the Onslow County Partnership for Children. We have since grown into a thriving nonprofit that provides programs and services to thousands of Onslow County children and their families on an annual basis. Our key leaders have been in the organization for more than 15 years. In 2021, we changed our name to One Place to better reflect our multi-pronged approach to supporting our community. Over the past 2 decades, we have worked to strengthen the systems of care surrounding children and families through public and private partnerships. We believe that by investing in children and families, we can provide the resources and programs to end child abuse and to create a stronger and more resilient future for our community. So we have some statistics up there for our last fiscal year, which are a little difficult for you to see, but it is our multi-pronged approach, or the 3 problems that we are trying to solve. We are working to strengthen children, to connect families, and to end child abuse in our community. So you can see some of the numbers up there, but through all of our comprehensive programs and services, we strive to create a future where every child in Onslow County has a healthy start and can reach their fullest potential. All of our programs are designed to protect children and families. When children are hurt through abuse, One Place provides hope and healing through comprehensive services in the Child Advocacy Center. In the previous year, we served more than 971 children and their family members. We did that through forensic interviews, specialized medical exams, advocacy, links to resources, and mental health services. So since the Child Advocacy Center started providing services to children in our community, we have served more than 3,500 local children. One Place also provides a wide range of early education and literacy programs that support healthy development during the first 2,000 days of a child's life. This includes early Head Start, pre-kindergarten, preschool, and high-quality childcare, which strengthen a child's social and emotional competency and resiliency, promoting strong school readiness skills. We also provide Raising a Reader, little free libraries, and story walks in the park to provide access to books and literacy. One Place partners with the town of Swansboro for these particular programs. The Child Advocacy Center, since January, we have served 7 children from the town of Swansboro in our center. For literacy and little free libraries, we have served 265 Swansboro children. Early Head Start, we have 1 child care partnership classroom currently serving 8 children. We have North Carolina pre-kindergarten programs, which includes 3 classrooms currently serving 77 children in child care centers and 37 children served at Queens Creek Elementary. Our 3-school program currently serves 16 children. Child care accessibility, there are 5 child care centers in this community serving 378 children. And with early educator training and technical assistance, it is available to all licensed child care programs in Onslow County. This is our new building because while Swansboro is poised for growth, so is the rest of Onslow County, and in particular One Place. We are seeing an increase in the demand of services for children in our community, so we knew that we needed a much larger building in order to facilitate those services. So this beautiful building is located in the Jacksonville Commons, and it is trauma informed. It is currently under construction with a proposed date of June 2025 to open. So the impact of the project is that it is going to double the space in our Child Advocacy Center so that we can serve twice as many children. We currently have 2 full-time pediatric nurse practitioners. Our goal is to have 4 medical providers. And more importantly, to be able to offer additional mental health services. At the current time, there is a serious lack of mental health services for children who have suffered trauma or specifically abuse. We recently started on-site mental health programming, and we have 1 full-time provider who is serving those children. But we will have 8 treatment rooms in the new facility to allow us to do that. We will also have a beautiful training, education, and leadership center, which will provide us with much needed space to provide education and training for our community partners, childcare personnel, and others. It will seat more than 300 adults at tables. And it will have a strong impact on economic development in our community because we will be able to host a number of trainings and seminars and conferences and conventions in Onslow County. This is our project timeline. We started this back in 2018, and it began with Dawn and Ann having a conversation about what did we need to do to move forward into the future. The space that we have now is leased, and it is not sustainable because we are spending a lot of money on rent, and we would like to be able to spend those monies on operations, specifically to be able to serve the children in the community through our Child Advocacy Center and through our other programs. So we got started on the project, the plans were drawn up, and then COVID began. So since COVID has ended, we have been working towards our final project. We broke ground. It is currently under construction in the Commons. If any of you have been over there, the entire frame is up. The floors are in. We're putting in the heating and air conditioning. It's moving along beautifully with a projected opening date of June of 2025. And this is the financial support that we have received. At the time, we were working on the plans. The overall project was $21 million. So we were very blessed to receive the support of the State Employees Credit Union Foundation, who made an initial $2 million challenge grant, and that has been followed by support from the legislature, from the state of North Carolina. We've received $11.5 million. We've received a pledge from the city of Jacksonville in the amount of $1 million, and we have also received support from other foundations. So we are well on our way to paying for that building. And our community campaign members are listed up there, and you probably will recognize their names. Leadership, we have 2 boards. One is for governance and programs, and the other one is for governance and advancement. So our boards are working very hard to create a sustainable future for one place. And that is a picture of our building. And what I want to mention is that while the services to children and their families are without cost, they are not free to provide. So the Child Advocacy Center provides services to traumatized children. The day of service is costing about $7,400 to provide that service. And there is very little financial reimbursement or revenue that we can tap into to pay for those services. So we are always writing grants and looking for additional support from the community. Are there any questions?
Comments and questions, and I'm sure the board will have some, but
Okay.
one, would you take us through an example, not a real example maybe, but with no names, of course, and maybe not recent, but on what happens, like when you Chief Taylor calls you
Oh,
and he
certainly,
has a case. Can you take us through a brief
certainly.
synopsis of what happens and why it's so important and the uniqueness of your name? Because I think that's part of it too.
Okay. The Child Advocacy Center relies heavily upon a multidisciplinary team to bring cases to its attention. So the multidisciplinary team is composed of over 20 agencies in our community, to include the 10 law enforcement jurisdictions that are located here. Swansboro Police Department is one of those jurisdictions. So when there is a report of child abuse or very serious neglect, a report is made to an investigator. That could be the police department or it could be Child Protective Services. Once they ascertain that abuse is occurring, they then contact our agency to provide an evaluation for that child. And law enforcement and Child Protective Services are both on site at the Child Advocacy Center throughout the whole period of the evaluation. So the child arrives with a supportive caregiver. They receive a very specialized forensic interview, followed by a comprehensive medical exam by one of the 2 rostered credentialed child abuse providers in all of Onslow County, and they are both employed by one place. They also receive advocacy and links to resources. They meet their mental health provider, who is going to provide them with evidence-based trauma-informed therapy. So the day of service is done in conjunction with our investigative partners. And then those partners continue to do an investigation. There may be criminal charges, and if so, it may be 4 to 6 years before that case goes to criminal court. And our agency is the only one that provides ongoing advocacy for the entire time, from that point of the evaluation service until the matter goes to criminal court. So we are staying in touch with that child and family the entire time, supporting them through what we know are the hills and the valleys of dealing with that level of stress or the trauma in their families. Our name changed to One Place back in 2021 to better represent the services that we provide in the community. We were known for over 20 years as the Onslow County Partnership for Children, but we are the one place in Onslow County where parents or anybody can go to seek out information about children, children's services, childhood trauma, anything to do with children. We are that one phone call that people can make. So we like to consider ourselves as the child experts of Onslow County. And we work very closely with all of our community partners to include those multidisciplinary partners in the school system. We want to ensure that children have wraparound services, so that when there is any trauma in their lives, they can be taken care of, and that the hope and the healing can begin for those families.
So I want to continue to dive a little bit
Sure.
more into your name. Why is it, if I'm the child, why is it so important that it's one place?
One place that they have to go to seek the services. Before the Child Advocacy Center opened in our community or in other communities, children often had to talk of their abuse and tell their story repeatedly, sometimes up to 15 times throughout the period of the evaluation or investigation. They can come to the One Place Child Advocacy Center and tell their story one time. All of the partners are there to hear it so that the child doesn't have to go through it over and over. Their interview is recorded and is loaded into a cloud-based system that will preserve that evidence forever. That way, if it is a number of years before the case goes to court, their interview is preserved. There is no statute of limitations for felony level sexual abuse in the state of North Carolina. So if there is no prosecution now regarding their case, they can come back 20 or 30 years from now and decide that they want to pursue their case, and that evidence will still exist. Children know that they are supported and loved while they are at the Child Advocacy Center, and that is why it was so important for us to provide on-site mental health as well, because they already have those feelings of trust. They've built rapport with our staff. It's a trusted location, And when they walk in the doors, they already have a good feeling. So mental health was just a natural arm of that, and it completed the circle of support services that are provided by a child advocacy center.
Bill?
You know,
I knew you had a question, Bill.
so first of all, thank you so much for being an advocate for our children. My wife was an educator for 31 years. My retired as principal at Queens Creek. So thank you for that. Taking
I
care
know,
of our
Elaine.
children. So the funding are you going to be open 24/7, or is it set hours? Because you're going to have a medical facility and
Well,
a counseling
I'm
facility.
glad you asked that question. We are primarily Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. We recognize that crises occur in the middle of the night, on weekends, on holidays. With child sexual abuse, the majority of perpetrators are family members. As a result, children are very slow to disclose anything that has occurred with them. So it is actually very rare for there to be a true crisis where there has been sexual assault within, say, 72 hours. When that is the case and the child is taken to a hospital or to a doctor's office, we typically receive the phone call. On some occasions, evidence collection can be done in a hospital emergency room setting. And then follow-up can occur at the Child Advocacy Center within 24 or 48 hours, where they would receive that specialized medical exam and the interview and all of the other services when it's not so crisis-driven. We recognize that children being in an emergency room is not the ideal situation.
So, and it looks like you have the funding for the building already. It's like approximately $10 million. Is that what it looks like?
The building project, as you
Land and
saw on the
property and
screen, was $21 million.
Yeah.
I believe we're
okay.
76% there.
So how would
Yes.
you fund ongoing services? Do you get grants, or do
We
you
do.
get federal aid, or?
Yes, so services specifically for the Child Advocacy Center are funded through a diverse array of funding sources. There are state grants as well as federal grants. There is some local funding and private donations. As our agency is a partnership for children agency, Smart Start funding is one of our main funders, and that funds services for children 0 to 5. The majority of children seen in the Child Advocacy Center are 6 through 17. So Smart Start funding doesn't cover all of it, and we continue to look for other sources of funding. Victims of Crime Act funding is federal restitution that funds services to child abuse victims, domestic violence victims, sexual assault victims across the nation, and that funding has pretty much dwindled nationwide. So we continue to seek out additional funding.
Well, thank you again for everything you're doing, and looks like you have some good business partners in the community that have stepped up and helped considerably too. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Again, thank you for doing what you do. Truly appreciate it. I know the families in Oslo County appreciate it as well. Just wondering, put up a lot of information. Are you coordinator connected with the family advocacy programs on Camp Lejeune?
We work very closely with them. They are a member of our multidisciplinary team, and they come to all of our case review meetings. About 50% of all of the children we serve are military connected. So we are working very closely with the military services.
But in light of that number, have you been able to gain any grants of any sort from the federal government and the Marine Corps?
Not at this point.
You're planning on though, right?
They're already trying.
Working on it.
They're ahead of
Working
you.
on it.
All right,
Don't mess
that's all.
with these three ladies, man. I'm the closest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'm pretty familiar with your project, and actually Partnership for Children I was, and I think some of you work with Rachel, and she
Yes.
goes to all of your meetings and
Yes.
everything.
Microphone, please. Thank you.
Hold on. So what we find, and I work in human resources, so we see a lot of the things that happen with the children. The biggest thing we see, not so much the sexual part, we probably don't get that, but we see behavioral problems.
Yes.
I don't know if it's COVID or if it was the families don't have time for them, but we see a lot of kids acting out more
Yes.
than anything else. So they'll throw blocks at each other, they'll throw things at each other. I've watched films where they knock everything over in the classroom. And, you know, that becomes very concerning for everyone. Our caregivers are getting hurt because these children's behaviors are really way out there. So do you see a lot of that?
We do, and we actually have child care resource and referral. We have a whole team of individuals who works with the child care centers and their personnel to deal with those specific issues. We
That's
saw a
what we see.
number of new problems that arose out of COVID when children were at home and not in a structured setting. And in the case of child abuse and neglect, they were at home with their offenders. So we did see a tremendous increase of abuse that occurred during that time period.
Well, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, unfortunately, my wife has a lot of experience in this. She's a teacher, and it's, to me, it's like to reiterate what Pat said, a lot of these kids somehow, some reason, they're out of control, and they don't seem to really identify with authority, or they don't want to identify with authority, and it's a shame because so many of them are starting their very young lives off on the wrong foot. And unfortunately for some of them, that's going to continue. And they'll never know what they possibly could have been when they grew up, or how a positive influence they could have been on somebody in the community. So I thank you for what you're doing. It's very hard. I understand. And I wish there was a lot more we could do to help you.
Thank you very much. We believe that high-quality childcare prevents a number of the issues that you are referring to. We have the Early Head Start program as well as 3K and pre-K to prepare children for their future success in school, to provide them with that structure. And the research has shown that high-quality childcare actually prevents a lot of those other occurrences later on in life, like child abuse or getting in trouble with the criminal justice system, incarceration as adults. We are honored to partner with Swansboro, and we look forward to working more closely with you in the future. Thank you for allowing us to come
Yeah,
tonight.
absolutely.
Thank you.
One last thing,
Yes.
and I don't know how easy it is to get back to this slide, but I did not realize that if my quick math was accurate, that somewhere in the vicinity of 1,000 kids that you're impacting in Swansboro.
Yes. Would you like me to go back through the slides, or?
Well, just,
Be
no,
glad to
that
bring
one,
it up.
I just didn't, I thought that was
Yes.
very interesting, that the local impact that you're actually having outside of what you
Yes.
naturally do in working with our chief,
Yes.
that you're actually having what would I call it, a day-to-day impact.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
you have a question? All right.
Sure. Be happy to. There you go. Governance and programs are on the left-hand side, and governance and advancement is on the right-hand side. Campaign cabinet members? Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, Reverend Churchwell from Sandy Run Missionary Baptist Church, and he is actually on both of our boards. Yes. I agree. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So board members, before Kathy steps down, I would ask that y'all consider, we're not quite through the budget cycle yet, and I'm not asking for an answer tonight, but I at least want y'all to consider if there's might be something that we can do in our upcoming budget as a one-time gift. So just put that in the back of your mind as we get closer to the budget workshop. Maybe there's something that we can do for these folks and what they are achieving for our community. We won't be able to do for sure what Jacksonville's doing. God bless them. But maybe these guys will consider doing it for something for you guys.
Thank
But
you.
Thank
We-
you.
We would be
Thank you.
grateful, and we would like to extend an offer to all of you to come for a tour of our building and our Child Advocacy Center, to meet our staff and to hear more about it in person.
And I will tell you that the tour is somewhat amazing and heartbreaking all in the same. So I encourage y'all as well. Ladies, any last comments? No? No, sorry. Okay. All right, well, thank you so much,
Thank
Ms.
you very
Kathleen.
much.
Well done and very informative. Thank you.
We're grateful for this opportunity.
All right. Our beloved attorney, Mr. Raspberry, also known as Raz, is going to speak to us about moratoriums. There has been some, just to lay the groundwork on that right after the election, and we got on the board, and I believe a development, yes, over on, let's see, Swansboro Loop Road, became priority attention, and some folks requested a moratorium. So we've asked Raz to give us the legal position for that now in terms of what the North Carolina legislative body has now requires in order to be able to consider. Raz, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This will be a very brief presentation. I see that since it's listed on the agenda as a presentation, it's worth getting at the podium. As Mayor, you and the board members may recall, we sent a legal opinion by email to you concerning the rather severe limitations that the recent legislative sessions have imposed on development moratoria. The statute is just General Statute 160D 107. The 2019 General Assembly, effective 2020, imposed a very severe restriction on development moratorium. Specifically, the new law provides a very stringent limitation that a municipality has authority to adopt temporary moratoria except, and I'm reading from the statute, except for the purpose of developing and adopting new or amended plans or development regulations governing residential uses. Generally speaking, towns are authorized to fashion very carefully crafted development moratoria, with the exception of adopting new regulations to address residential developments, proposed residential developments. With respect to non-residential projects or developments, cities have the authority, although it is very carefully restricted and tailored in the statute, that a town or city has the authority to impose development moratoria on other than residential developments. But the statute has stringent public notice requirements, and any action along those lines would require a very careful consideration of all alternatives and a measuring out of the justification, the cause that required moratoria. Statute allows typically 60 days only, with additional public notices. One can go longer if there is any attempt to renew a development moratorium. It's required by statute that you essentially justify why any moratoria goes beyond the initial period is needed. Generally, the statutes require you to find that there is some infrastructure inadequacy, typically water and sewer services, which would not normally, unless UNWASA has some circumstance that would require Swansboro to get on board with a development moratorium. I don't think that's the circumstance, but with respect to inadequacy of public infrastructure, that's really the only criteria that a town can point to as justification for a moratoria. And again, that is with respect to everything but residential development. Residential developments are off limits. A municipality expressly prohibited from adopting any kind of development moratoria or pause or hold button, if you will, on residential developments for purposes of allowing the adoption of more finely tuned regulations to ostensibly restrict or limit those developments. So that's the town is really hamstrung in that respect if there's a concern about residential developments. The legislature just simply did not allow, specifically prohibited municipalities from having a pause in order to consider new regulations that would be targeting residential developments. The Code of Ordinances, the Town Code, Section 152.073, apparently was adopted before the most recent limitations, so there'll need to be a text change to conform town zoning ordinance, UDO provisions with the state statute. But that's the long and short of it. Your authority is extremely limited, virtually non-existent with respect to being able to consider a pause on development for residential.
So if I can try the Reader's Digest version of this, no moratorium for anything residential, commercial. You have an extremely high, severe bar if you'd want to do commercial for 60 days.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, board members, questions for Raz? All right, so at this point, board members, I think it's safe to say that the topic of moratorium can be taken off future agenda items, and there's so moved. Okay. I don't think there's anything we can do there. All right, very good. Thank you, Raz, for that. Board members, our next topic is for our, thank you guys, thank y'all. For Board of Adjustments, I'm going to make a recommendation. Board members, if you would like to do something else, that's fine as well. My suggestion is for a motion to reappoint the 4 interested parties in being reappointed, that being Elaine Justice, Thomas Peretti, John Fitzgerald, and Tom Carricker back to the Board of Adjustments. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I recuse myself?
I've got a motion.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Do I have any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to recuse myself from Elaine's vote,
Okay, you,
being my wife.
you could please have a seat.
Yep.
Actually, if you just go out in the lobby. Now, where's your car? Where's your car, sir?
Go home.
Yeah. All right, so if you could just have a seat there, sir. And for the record, that Bill Justice has recused himself from the vote. Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. I thought you went home.
You come back.
All right. All right, we've been going for 45 minutes. We'll take a 5-minute recess and then we'll get started on our public hearings. Try to move some things along when we can. Figure out what it is yet.
Doing good. How you doing?
I was very interested.
Yep.
I think Joe's like hooking up his barbecue out there or something.
Look at doing what?
You hooking up your barbecue, man.
I think he's actually looking for a pair.
Oh. You know we're live, I'm just saying. Just putting out there, we're live. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get back to business here. And again, thank you everybody for being here tonight. And it is my honor to bring up Miss Rebecca Bremer to present our next two.
Right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I wanted to start by just giving kind of a brief overview and history of Ward Farm and its own as far as zoning and development plans, and then kind of lead into the two public hearings and text amendments that we're hearing that as they're related to the upcoming project we're going to discuss. So I do have Mr. Is it Plegman, the architect for the project, as well as Paul Williams representing Ward Farm. So at any point, if there's questions that are more suited for them to answer, feel free to call them up. So as you can see on the map here, where the star is the area we're speaking of, Ward Farm. It is zoned B3. I think it's important to note that this is the only B3 zoning in our whole town, so everything we are referencing as far as amendments is only affecting this small area. So, in relation to our CAMA future land use plan, the area circled here encompasses Ward Farm, and it is the traditional town center. That's the same as our downtown area as well, as you can see by the water. So, the traditional town center promotes walkability, multifamily development, as well as mixed-use development. The references given in this traditional town center are very much neo-traditional in style, as shown in the photo examples given in our CAMA land use plan in that section. So this is just the header for the section. And these are some example photos of development that would be in keeping with how the section reads. As far as some history, there was a master plan created for Ward Farm back in 2010. And these are just two photos from that I thought were fitting for the project and text amendments that we're discussing tonight. And it was rezoned to B3 in 2011. So this has all very much been a pre-planned and long time coming as far as development-wise. All right, so kind of give more specifics on this project in particular. It is on currently Lot 8 of Ward Farm, right behind the Hampton Inn, as you can see there. And it is a high-end condominium project named Breza Loft. We won't get into too much detail tonight about the project just because it's in the preliminary stages, and it will be a special use permit that you guys will hear again in the future. So this is just some preliminary architectural renderings of what the proposed project would or could look like. So these are just a couple elevations and some side elevations.
And Rebecca, speaking of elevation, how tall would those be? If you'd go back one slide, please. How tall would those be?
So that is part of some of the amendments that we are going to reference tonight. So if it's okay, I'll get to that when we get to that section.
Okay.
All right. So then I'll go ahead and go into the text amendments. The first one will be an amendment to our CAMA future land use plan. So Ward Farm. This is the amendment to the CAMA. Yeah. Sorry. So just to continue, this is the amendment to the CAMA future land use plan. So Ward Farm has applied for an amendment to the CAMA future land use plan, specifically page 41 in the traditional town center section, in order to better serve an upcoming condominium project, Breza Lofts. The purpose of this amendment is to add an exception to the appropriate density/intensity requirements in compact residential of up to 18 units per acre for multifamily in B3 zoning district. So again, this is just affecting Ward Farm B3 zoning. Ward Farm LLC provides that the current 12 units per acre for multifamily residential, as it currently reads, does not provide enough residential density over commercial to balance out the square footage of commercial spaces on the ground floor with the 80 to 20% commercial to residential ratio. By increasing the units per acre to 18, it would allow for more balance in development and help make the commercial spaces more desirable and successful. So though it is amending our CAMA future land use plan, I would argue that the thought behind amending it is still in keeping with the traditional town center. It's just adding a tweak to it in order to better serve development for this project. And the planning board did recommend the approval of this amendment at its May 9th, 2024 meeting. So in your packet, we have the application. We have the statement of consistency from the planning board. We have the traditional town center section. And then on the second page of that, and highlighted in yellow, is the section that would be amended. So it would read the same as it currently does under appropriate density/intensity. It would just add at the end of compact residential that there would be an exception of up to 18 for multifamily for B3 zoning. Right, and that's it for my presentation. If you have questions for him, I'd be happy to.
So this only impacts the B3, so it
Yes,
only
sir.
impacts that property?
Well, it could impact anything in Ward Farm.
Well, just the B3 zoning?
Yes.
Which is only those properties?
Yes, not just this lot, but
Yes.
any property in B3
I was
zoning.
speaking
Yeah.
of Ward Shore in general. But
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. All right. Board members, any questions for Rebecca before I open the public hearing? All right, hearing none, open the public hearing. We do not have anybody signed up to speak. Would anybody like to speak? Forever hold your peace. All right, public hearing is closed. Board members, again, any questions for Miss Rebecca? Or anyone else that's in the room represented?
Just one question. You know I gotta ask.
You'll never get one. Come on, man.
So it's just an addition. You're not deleting the 12 for multifamily, you're just adding the 18 to it.
Yep, so the 12 will stay the same
Yeah.
for all other traditional town center, which is just our downtown. But for Ward Farm specifically, they would be allowed to have up to 18 to better serve the development project.
All right, board members, good? All right. So I'm going to take it from the lack of questions and lack of conflict that I would ask for a motion to approve Resolution 2024-R8, amending the CAMA Future Land Use Plan, adding an
So moved.
exception. Because this is a public hearing, I need to read all the way through, please. Thank you. I appreciate it, though. Exception of up to 18 units per acre for multifamily in the traditional town center for the B3 zoning district. Now, Jeff.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? This is the third opportunity. All right, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. Miss Rebecca?
All right. So, in keeping with the background history that I gave for the next one, it's UDO text amendments to both Section 152, 180, and Section 152, 195. So again, Ward Farm has applied for text amendments to these two sections. The first one being 152, 180, notes to the table of permitted/special uses, specifically note 37 in B3 Traditional Business District, as well as to Section 152, 195, table of area, yard, square footage, and height requirements to adjust certain dimensional requirements in the B3 zoning district, again, for the upcoming condominium project, Breslofts. Both amendments were recommended for approval by the Planning Board at the May 9th, 2024 meeting. So to outline the purpose of the first one, 152, 180 notes the table of permitted special uses. It's to allow Breslofts located on Lot 8 of the Ward Farm Town Center to be exempt from the limitation currently outlined in Note 37 that permits buildings to only have 20% of first floor be used for residential use. So they feel that this would create more residential density to stimulate the development of Ward Farm Town Center in a whole, and also to create better transition from the single-family lots that have currently been developed to commercial buildings on the lots that front Hammock Beach Road in the future. So as you can see in your packet, we have the application as well, and then we have the consistency statement. The first section outlines Note 37, and again, it remains the same as before. It just gives an exception for this one parcel on Ward Farm to be exempt from this restriction. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the thought behind this was to do a residential property, and then at that point, it'll be more feasible to develop the mixed use in the future. That's why he's just asking for the exemption of this one lot. So that's the first one, and do you have any questions on that before I go into the other one?
Go ahead. Keep going.
For the second one, it's 152, 195, table of area, yard, square footage, and height requirements. The request is to raise the maximum building height in just B3 traditional business from 35 feet to 40 feet. So that answers your question. If this was approved, it would ideally be 40 feet. And this is in order to allow for more desirable floor-to-floor heights in the ground floor units. And an important note is we did check with the fire chief before adding this, and this is something that he's able to comfortably still serve with the extra 5 feet. He has the equipment to do that. And additionally, in this section, at staff's recommendation, was to add square footage minimums of 8,000 square feet for the first 2 units plus 1,975 square feet per unit thereafter. And this is mainly just to be consistent with other zoning districts that we have in the dimensions table. And again, this project appears to be consistent with our CAMA future land use plan. Any questions on this one? And again, it is outlined in your packet what this would look like as an amendment in our ordinance.
All right, board members, any questions? Okay, with that, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody from the public like to speak on this particular topic? Ever hold your peace? Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 2024-010, amending section 152.180, notes of the table of permitted and special uses, note 37 and B3 traditional business district requirements, in section 152.195, table of area, yard, square footage, and height requirements. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, very good. John, Paul, thank you. All right, we'll move on to our next one. And Miss Rebecca gets to stay with us. So we got the public street and sidewalk acceptance for Shadow Creek.
All right. So for this one, we have Tidewater Associates on behalf of One Harbor Church is requesting acceptance of public streets and sidewalks for Shadow Creek Estates subdivision. This request includes all streets within the subdivision, which is Shadow Creek Drive, Big Pine Court, Diamond Ridge Court, Hibiscus Court, Marshview Court, and all sidewalks. And we do have Josh here from Tidewater. If there's any questions I can't answer, I'm sure he would be happy to. So this is just a simple zoning map of the town, and the star there in the bottom left corner would be Shadow Creek Estates. So to give a little background history, in 2017, a letter verified by Crystal Coast Engineering verified that the developer completed the required improvements and repairs for the subdivision. Maintenance items needing attention were coordinated and approved by the town's public work director as of August 2023. In this case, due to the condition of stormwater easements, the stormwater maintenance will remain with the homeowners association and will not be part of this acceptance. Additionally, in April of 2024, the town's consultant engineer, Ron Cullifer, reviewed the cost opinion provided for calculations of warranty and verified that the numbers did appear to adequately represent present-day costs and that he would recommend approval. Lastly, One Harbor Church did submit a warranty guarantee in the amount of $45,737.60, which would be the required 10% warranty that's required in or outlined in our UDO. And it's also outlined the attached cost opinion that will remain on file for 1 year following the board's acceptance of the public street and sidewalks. So in your packet, you have the letter from the engineer back in 2017 verifying that everything was built according to standards. We have the plat map of the subdivision. We have the cost opinion that was both submitted and reviewed by our engineer to be correct. And we have the official acceptance letter from One Harbor for the town to take on the streets and sidewalks. Is there any questions for me or for Josh?
Yeah, I got two questions. One is, I'd like to understand, if you could help me understand, why I believe you said the stormwater runoff is not part of this.
My understanding, and Tank can speak on this a little bit more if needed, but the condition of the stormwater is not something that the town, due to its condition, is not something that the town is willing to take on for maintenance. So it's not included in the request.
So my concern is, Tank, help me remember the name of the neighborhood over here that you and I have been at a couple times, Swans Gate. My concern is that we're going to have the same situation that we had with Swans Gate and that we have with Swans Gate. I don't feel comfortable, but it's up to the board, that we're not accepting both at the same time as one unit. Tank, I appreciate you wanting to speak, but please use the microphone so you can straighten me out if you need to. Andrea's done jumped up now. We're in real trouble. It's been the last time I get to see you jump up like that, Andrea.
Both subdivisions, Shadow Creek.
Tank, please use the microphone.
Both subdivisions, Shadow Creek and Swansgate, were already earmarked for the homeowners association to take over the stormwater. That was never part of the equation when it came to the town. Just the streets, sidewalks, curbs and gutters. The problem with Swansgate is that the stormwater issue, the way they have graded those easements does not allow the water to move out, and it sits on the streets, and that's why I have a problem there. Shadow Creek is good to go as far as the streets, sidewalks, curbs and gutters. The stormwater is that homeowners association's responsibility at this point. We were never supposed to take it over from the get-go. Do I agree with that? No. I think that we should have all of the stormwater so that I can watch what's happening and what's dumping into our easements and so forth, but that's not, that I didn't have any input into that decision.
Okay. Andrea, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts is that it has not been maintained and there are large trees growing in the stormwater easements, huge trees. So it's already compromised because the tree roots have gone into the ground, into areas where they shouldn't be. And it was always reviewed since, 2011 or something like that, for it to be a homeowners association stormwater. We need to amend the ordinance and amend the policies if you want to marry stormwater and roads, which is a smart thing to do. But in this case, this is very delinquent and you do not need to take it.
So, Board, I still have a concern that we're going to accept streets and sidewalks, and then we're going to end up with streets in 10 years that we're going to have to spend money to repair because the stormwater's not right.
Right.
And so I'm going to put that out there. I appreciate what Andre is saying, but I'm concerned about that. That bothers me because we've been fighting it at Swansgate for 2 or 3 years now. And we still don't have resolution on that one. And we've struggled as a town to keep our developers accountable with this type of stuff. And yes, ma'am.
The normal design is for stormwater to be parallel to a road. Swansgate's stormwater is perpendicular. So it is undermining the streets.
On this one over here, right?
Yeah. So Shadow Creek is parallel and normal. It's just the easements are so compromised. So I just think that the best solution is policy changes to require stormwater to be a town standard and to come with the streets. But those two subdivisions aren't comparable because the stormwater design
Is different.
is different.
All right, Bill, I know you've got some questions.
Another question? Nope.
No?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I thought I heard you.
I have questions.
All right, go ahead, Jeff.
Me?
Yeah, you said you had a question.
Tank, have you been out there and checked these, the roads, the curbs, the sidewalks, all of the things that we're concerned about?
In Shadow Creek?
Yes.
Yes, I have.
And have you looked into the developer? We've got what he hasn't finished, we got the funds to cover it.
Everything that we required to be repaired was repaired.
Okay, now I'll tell you on the, as far as the drainage, stormwater drain, my subdivision has the same, we have sediment ponds, they have sediment ponds.
Yep.
We don't, the city doesn't control ours. I've been asking them to take it over for a while, but they won't do that. But that's another story. The A side built Swangate, right?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay.
And Shadow Creek.
Well, they were I thought there was 2 developers in Shadow Creek.
I may be wrong, but the predominant developer, I believe, was A-Sides.
Okay. If you're satisfied with it,
I'm satisfied with the repairs that were done to the streets, sidewalks, curbs, and gutters.
so I know we've done our due diligence then.
Yes, we have. Yes.
All right, I'm good on that.
Yeah, that was my second question, Tank, but thank you, Joe. Very good. Doug, go ahead.
Yeah, like you, Mayor, I have some concerns here because it probably won't happen during our tenure. But the next board or 2 boards away from now is probably going to be looking at water is the most destructive force in nature, I think. And a lot of these property owners, even though they've got an HOA, I was just concerned that are they represented by an attorney at that HOA? I mean, who have we been dealing with? Just the developer itself? Okay. What happens is, because I know I live in a neighborhood similar to this, is problems usually don't show up for like 7 to 10 years. And by then, here we are. I think we're going to come around and we're going to experience the same thing. What is it, deja vu all over again? Is what
Well, and that's
Tommy
my
Lasorda
point.
said?
I don't want to keep going there. Why do we keep going in this circle? We take these developments and then we find ourselves having to fix everything, and we keep finding ourselves going into this loop. And instead of it being, get it right, I want to accept it, but let's get everything right and then accept it. That's just,
The
Because
subdivision
here's what I envision
regs,
happening.
the subdivision regulations allow a choice of a homeowners association owning certain attributes like the stormwater.
Right.
It does not allow roads to be built below DOT standards.
I understand.
So it's not, if we change the subdivision reg to not allow homeowners associations to have the stormwater, you know what I'm saying?
I
That
do.
would help resolve your concerns.
And then maybe that's the direction we need to
Shadow
head in.
Creek Estates has gone belly up twice.
for
The developer has a limited partnership and they've been defunct at the Secretary of State. The homeowners association at Shadow Creek is very strong and they were able to get this work done. The developer, the second developer, did grant in some way the last 10 lots to One Harbor Church so that Jonathan McDaniel would be the engineer to finish out the project.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Here, I still have a concern. Here's what my concern is at the end of the day. It all comes down to money and funding. Are they setting aside a fund out of their HOA fees that's going to allow them to repair stormwater damage in the future? Because are they going to wait until they have a problem and then have to go ask all their property owners and stuff, hey, to fix this, it's our responsibility. Now we got to raise the money. And you know what happens to that? They look at us and then we have this big rift between a neighborhood and the town.
there is a whole body of law in North Carolina about homeowners associations, and it is not our role to regulate them.
Yeah, they don't see it now. But
so Raz, let me ask a couple questions here. And it's less involved in this, well, it does involve the homeowners association. So one is, and this is for the board's information, it's their decision to make, but does the board have to accept these sidewalks and roads knowing, or regardless, does the board have to accept these roads and sidewalks? Legally, are we legally required to accept these roads and sidewalks?
And I'm going to hedge a little bit because I haven't studied the plat and the history of this project. The short answer is no. You do not have to. They are offered, I'm sure the plat has language on, that is the subdivision map has language on the plat signed by proper owners, previous owners, saying we hereby offer for dedication to the town of Swansboro the following roads and facilities and easements within the street system, streets and sidewalks. I expect the plat shows the the stormwater as being private drainage ways. There's
All right,
not
so-
been an offer of
And I'm
dedication.
fine and understand that.
Yeah.
So can the board say, at this time, we do not wish to accept the sidewalks and streets, and they can come back to us when they have the stormwater issues corrected? And at that time, we would be willing to accept them.
Based on what I know now, I think that would be perfectly legitimate. You don't have any obligation to accept the streets and the sidewalks and street infrastructure at this moment. It will require having the easements for stormwater dedicated to the town, offered for acceptance by the town. And that's something you probably want to look into just in terms of what
But
that represents.
well, I agree with Tank. If we're gonna, we probably should, if we're gonna own part, we should probably own all, but that's not, I'm not bent on owning the stormwater, but I do want the stormwater maintained and at least up to par when we accept the roads and the sidewalks. At least that's my opinion.
Well, I understand that.
Okay.
It's just, unless you have easements being dedicated to the town, the town has no property right that allows the town to assume maintenance at some time in the future.
Okay, Doug?
I have a question also for you, Raz. Is there anything that we can say, like we come back to them at a counteroffer, something, it's to mitigate the future? What I'm saying is, can they show us, hey, we're thinking about the future here in stormwater repairs, and we're already part of our HOA fees. We set aside money each year, each month, as part of their HOA fees, to handle future stormwater issues. I'd be a whole lot more comfortable if they're already upfront with each of those homeowners and saying, hey, this is going to be a future cost, guys.
But yes, you can. As a matter of fact, the city of Raleigh had this 100-page ordinance requiring a stormwater maintenance fund, and the city sort of oversaw the amount of funds that were maintained, and the developer had to put a substantial amount of money up front in that fund, projected to be adequate to meet the needs years down the road. Now that's getting a municipality very directly involved in the drainage. Because there's such an intimate connection between the drainage ways and the streets. And obviously what typically gets municipalities upset is when the streets start overflowing, because streets naturally will collect stormwater drainage. And if the flow is greater than what was anticipated, because the watershed is developed, then it's a streets problem. It's not just a private drainage problem. So there's a lot of thought has been given. Some towns like to say hands off on the stormwater because this is private property. We can't manage the creeks. We can't manage the swales. And the towns go into action whenever the streets overflow. But, you know, it's the kind of thing you have to, obviously that was not the plan and the program with this development going back to the earlier days. And it's difficult to say, okay, we now want to take this approach instead of the approach that got started a few years back. But you can take that, and like I say, if you would like to put a pause on acceptance of the streets and sound out the HOA, because again, they are HOAs go defunct, they go moribund, there may not be enough money, so it's just there's no remedy there. There's not the will and the money. So yes, that's worth exploring, but you'll have to turn back the clock and look at the town getting much more involved in private drainage ways and seeing that problems down the road with those drainage ways won't impact the streets. That's just, it's a very common problem. This is something that cities and towns wrestle.
Well, I know. HOAs are very fluid animals. I mean, next year they can vote to, like, do away with the entire HOA.
All right,
then-
Jeff, let's let Jeff.
Here we are.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I can, I appreciate where the mayor's going with this. I think we just don't want to see another Charleston Park situation happen. Is it possible? Well, I'm sure anything's possible, but what about a, acceptance on condition? And of course, the condition would be some type of minimal, action required.
They gotta
on-
meet Tank's requirement.
Yeah, some type of minimum action required on the,
Josh from Tidewater
I
has.
want, wait, hold on, Josh. I want to hear from Raz first.
thinking is that the leverage you have is the issue of acceptance of the streets. And if you like to not act on that and just make inquiries concerning the HOA and whether they'd be willing to make plans for some source of funding, willingness to take it on. It requires redoing the map because the easements would have to be dedicated to the town if the town is thinking of being the maintainer of last resort. But at this point, it's a matter of use.
But at a minimum, we could not accept them with the basis that they have to demonstrate to us a plan or either meet Tank's requirements that they are up to par with the roads.
I think that'd be reasonable, yes, sir.
All right, so board members, at this point, I'm going to suggest that this go back to staff and we allow the staff to go back to the developer and have the developer come back with a plan. Because I think Jeff hit the nail on the head for me. I don't want to go back to another Charleston Park or Swansgate. I don't. So,
I don't even think it should be conditional. I think it should be up to par
period.
without any condition, just.
I
do it-
think
do
that's
it
what
by
Jeff,
now. Yeah,
I think that's what
okay.
Jeff's saying. I think you're saying the same thing.
Same thing.
Joe, you had something?
Right, and Lord knows, I don't want another Charleston Park, but I also don't want, A-sides, I got zero confidence in this contractor, personally. But I don't want him hanging us out here. We got to put a time,
Well, he no longer, I think it's One Harbor now, is the.
it's a church, One Harbor,
Is the, yeah,
they own real estate inside there.
yeah.
So they are now the developer. Right. Okay. Oh, so that's why you're so interested in jumping up here and talking, right?
All right, Josh, go ahead. There's the
Go
microphone.
on, Josh.
So I wasn't here when all this happened with Tidewater, but so One Harbor Church took on the rest of Eddie McNeil's outstanding issues as part of the 10-lot deal. So One Harbor Church, we're trying to close out the project for One Harbor Church. So I just want to go on record and saying at this point, we have met our obligations that's required by the town. I understand what you guys are saying. You certainly do not have to accept the streets. We understand that. So I think if we're going that way, just clear direction to the staff of exactly what we want. I heard the mayor say, make sure all of Tank's items, we have, from my recollection, Tank, we have taken care of all those items that Tank requested in
And he
August.
stated you had.
That's
So-
that's a different, Tank's items as it requires to stormwater.
To stormwater. So again, we have no idea what those items are, to my knowledge, unless Tank is communicated to the office. So it's hard for us, it would be
So-
hard for us to
All right,
address
Tank,
those
let
without
him
knowing.
finish, please.
So again, we're happy to address any stormwater items. Obviously, going kind of back to the drawing board from how the development was originally designed as far as stormwater being an HOA issue. Like the town attorney said, I'm sure easements would have to be redrawn. I don't know if HOA documents have to be changed. So whatever we decide, if we could just get clear direction on that on our end, so moving forward, we can address it very swiftly and quickly. To get back to you guys, we would just appreciate it. To just clear direction is really all we need, and we can work with staff to do whatever we need to do.
I think that's absolutely fair, Josh.
So
Absolutely.
just give them good direction.
Well,
we'll
and
be good to go.
that's my suggestion, is that we send this back to staff, that Tank, you go out there and you come up with what the requirements are, and they have to come together. Either they have to meet them or come to us with a plan to meet them. One or the other.
So just to be fair and clear on all of this, stormwater was never
Understand,
part of the equation as far as
Understand.
meeting not Tank's requirements, but
understand,
the town's requirements.
I understand.
And as far as stormwater requirements, that will go along with the Department of Environmental Quality and their requirements for stormwater and all of those things that I'll go out and look at and see what's not being met. this is a different animal than Swansgate because I have not been made aware by any of the homeowners or anybody else that I've been involved with that I know that the stormwater easements have not been maintained, but I've not been made aware that there's an issue that would cause that to impact the streets, sidewalks, gutters, and things like that. As a matter of fact, where that is situated, where Swansgate or Shadow Creek is situated, everything runs right to Queens Creek. I mean, it's not a stretch to figure out where the water is going to run to.
Right.
So that's where we're at on that. They met the requirements as far as.
The roads and sidewalks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Understand.
They did that.
Yes, Ms. Pat?
So I may be the only one that thinks differently here. I think that they've met the requirement for the streets. I think we should pass that on and do the stormwater as a separate issue. I don't understand why we're holding up the streets for the stormwater. That can still come.
Because in 5 to 6 years, it's going to eat up your streets.
I'm not saying don't do that.
But you have no enforcement if you accept this.
Well, I'm going to disagree with that. I think they should be accepted.
Well, I understand. I'm just saying you have no enforcement if you
And
do accept
how
it.
many other subdivisions have we not taken the stormwater then?
Well, that's my point. That's the whole reason I'm saying this, because I don't want to end up at Charleston Park. I don't want to end up with Swansgate. We keep getting in the same mud puddle, pun intended.
Well, again, are we going to take everybody's then? Do all the stormwater?
Well, as we need to, I think Andre is right. We need to change the policy.
Well, I'll disagree with
Okay.
waiting on it.
All right. Well, it's up to you guys. But I think we need to table it and let the staff go back and figure out what needs to be done with stormwater. Yes, sir.
I think streets, sidewalks, and stormwater is like, to me, it's one system in a neighborhood. It's part of the same system. One affects the other. I don't want to keep, how do you say it? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Okay? So I think we need to revisit the policy. I think that's a wise idea from a very wise person with a lot of experience in this room. As she departs our company here and moves on to bigger and better things, she's leaving us words of wisdom there. And I think we can avoid future problems if we have the right policies in place. You got to look at this as a complete system, not parts and pieces. So I'm willing to collaborate with the neighbors, with the HOA, find out how we can resolve it. They might have some ideas that we haven't thought of. Let's hear what they have to say. So I say we send it back to the staff and see if we can get them to come talk to us. And then show us some mitigation. If they want to maintain the stormwater, I'm not against that either. I just want them to look me in the eye and say, hey, we've got the plan. We have a fund we're collecting to handle future problems. And we'll assist them in engineering and those kind of things, but it's, like I said, nothing's free.
All right, board members, it's my recommendation to go back to the staff. I'd like to hear your opinion at this time. Joe?
My initial thought was that we are here to talk about the sidewalks and the streets. I understand the concern, basically because the stormwater caused some of the problems that we had over here in Charleston Park. I would agree to send it back to the staff, but I'd like to hear back from Tank to say, here's a stormwater situation, board. Are we at risk of it deteriorating the roads if it's not, they do have sediment ponds, right? That flow then on into Queens Creek? Sure. I mean, because these things have to be maintained. I think we need to verify that they're built to state standard, and y'all are not going to be. We're 5 years into ours, and we're just now getting the state to come out and say, hey, somebody has to sign for these, and we're going through all the verifications and the inspections and all the different things that the state requires. for these cement ponds. So it might be different if you guys are holding it as a corporate asset, right? So I don't know.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with send it back to the staff though.
All right.
Go ahead,
So
Josh.
real quick, just so everybody, I didn't say this and I should have. We're in the process of getting the stormwater permit transferred from McNeil to the HOA. Part of that transfer is that state has to come out
Right.
and certify that our stormwater system is good to go before that transfer happens. So they'll provide us, we know there's a punch list, they'll provide us with a punch list of items that we need to do before that transfer could happen.
And,
So-
and that may be a good standard
That's
to
kinda
hold
where
them
we're
to before we accept.
Yeah, I
those.
would wait. That's perfect then for me, is wait until that's done. But anyway, back to, so, you're okay with it going back to staff?
Yeah, I'd say go back to staff too. I just don't see my limited knowledge why you would take the streets, sidewalks, and curves, but knowing that there might be future issues from our previous experience that we've had. So I think it should all be one ballpark thing, and maybe we should go back and amend the text to include stormwater in the
And-
future.
Well, we can't go backwards on policy.
Yeah, but we could amend it.
We can amend it,
Yeah.
yes. Doug, back to staff or not? All right. Jeff?
Yeah, definitely go back. I would like to accept it until we can go, but, like the mayor, I have concern over what water can do. The roads can be built perfect, but if you don't have the right drainage, it's gonna tear it up really bad. Water, like Doug said, water is very powerful, and I would feel more comfortable if Tank and them and they got together and come back and everything's good to go. Okay, fine.
All right. Pat, you're still a no, I'm assuming?
I'm still holding. I think we should accept their
Okay.
and everything. Not saying that we shouldn't look at the stormwater on a different day for everybody.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, Rebecca, we're gonna send this back to you.
Okay.
And, you got Andre on speed dial,
Yes.
so help get this resolved. And Tank, and Paul, we just want this to be, we don't want you to have a headache in 5 to 7 years. So whatever it takes, and I think Josh is right, it needs, one thing I've experienced this with the town of Swansboro, but I know our new staff is not doing this. But I agree with Josh. He should have one checklist, he meets the checklist, comes to the board, and we move forward. Not, he shouldn't get a checklist and then a second and a third checklist. And I've had to do that before, and that's not business to me. So I agree with Josh. We need to give him one checklist, let him meet the checklist, and then we need to move forward. So, all
Can
right.
I just clarify one thing? So we're bringing it back to staff for the developer specifically to work with Tank on the standards. Would the state's checklist and them meeting those requirements in order for it to be transferred to the HOA not satisfy that?
If we need to wait until all that happens, I'm fine with
So
that.
that would be an acceptable solution, is to wait
I
for that to
believe
happen?
Tank is nodding his head yes. So as long as Tank's okay with that.
Okay, so that's one thing. And separately, would you like staff to bring back something else to amend the subdivision regulations as they're currently read, or is that something in the future?
No, I think Pat's right that we need to look at that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to own them,
Mhm.
but there needs to be something, number one, that when we accept the streets and roads, that they are correct at the time of acceptance.
Mhm.
And I believe and I don't know, we would need your help, Raz, on this. There needs to be some way to enforce maintenance on them so that they are maintained well, or that the town's given the right to take those over at a later time if they're not
Okay.
maintained.
So add that as in a future
Yes,
future
please.
agenda item? Okay, understood. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, monthly financial report, Miss Sonia.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. All right. So here's your monthly report for as of April 30th, 2024. And this is your general fund 2-year comparison Your total excess of revenues over expenditures were $876,090. This is your actual, this is without encumbrances. Your excess of revenues over expenditures were $1,183,674. Now, just keep in mind that our ad valorem is pretty much it's at 98%. So moving forward, we
It's not
still
gonna move
have,
much.
yeah, so we still have payroll to meet. So that's going to be reduced when I report next month.
So what's your projection? Normally you have a projection.
I think the projection I gave y'all was like
Spot on?
200. Yeah, something like that.
It was what?
It's like 300,000 maybe.
I thought it was 600. What'd you do? Cut it in half?
You'll see next month.
All right.
All right, so here's expenditures by department as of April 30th. And overall, we're at 75.85% spent as of April 30th, which is 7.45% less than the monthly projection.
That chart's in our package, right? Package, right?
Do what?
No, I've got it. Never mind. Good to go.
Charts in the packet.
Oh, yeah, everything's in there.
Okay.
Yep. And here is your stormwater enterprise fund. Your total excess of revenues over expenditures were $57,661. And that's with encumbrances included. And here's your solid waste enterprise fund with encumbrances included, and that your excess over revenues were $13,812.
Can you back, I'm sorry, can you back up just?
Back.
All right. So the reason why it caught my attention is, so by increasing our solid waste fees, we did accomplish what we were hoping to accomplish.
Yeah, and in fact, I think I mentioned it during the budget workshop that the waste management, the CPI went up 3.4%. I did that, and we're still, so there's no justification to increase it at that time. I mean, I guess we'll wait throughout the year, and then come mid-year, I'll come back if we feel like there's a problem, but
Okay.
I feel like we're okay. And then here is a summary of our town's existing debt and current loan balances. And as you see, I've added the cab tractor and the dump truck that we just did here in April. And our annual debt service for that would be $58,491.
Is there any benefit, like I'm looking at some of the balances here and they're really getting to that smaller minimum level? Is there any reason why we couldn't go ahead and pay off the public safety building and save our interest, go ahead and pay off the sleeping quarters, go ahead and pay off the vehicles and save that much in the interest that we're going to accrue by, paying this off for another 6 months or 2 years, whatever the case is in some of these?
Sure can.
Do you think,
up-
as our finance director,
Well, and I do
we
know-
would save some money?
You can, and I do know that Jacob during his meetings with the county, has asked to pay some of this debt off. I'm not too, that didn't happen.
Well, that's okay.
But that's okay.
We've got to figure out with the
I can
county, but in
figure-
terms of us taking money out of fund balance, two questions, with everything that we're
Yes.
wanting to do in the budget and with the current fund balance, is it a wise choice to spend this money? Because, well, if we're making I don't know what we're making. Are we making 5%? If we're making 5%, then we need to keep paying this. If we're making 0.1% or less than 2.5%, then we need to go ahead and pay this
Yeah,
off,
it's 5.
in
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah, I can bring it back the next meeting. I can give you
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, and here's your summary of your town's current cash and investment accounts and their current balances as of April 30th. So this is the North Carolina Cash Management is where we keep the majority of it.
So I can save you some work. If most of that money
It-
is inside these two accounts, then we just need to keep paying the debt service because we're making more money. We're making two
We're
and a half.
making more here.
We're making
That's right.
2.5% by paying off the debt service versus not paying it off, but by continuing the debt service, we're making 2.5 cents.
And some of them are already, there's only 1 year left, so
Okay.
there's, right.
All right.
And then here's our grant update of our existing grants.
And board members, do you want me to bring up the cameras and lights, Christmas lights? real
Yes,
quick?
actually, we just, Chief got his quote in today too, so
All right, so
you can.
yeah, so board members, and just to help with, how do I say this?
Government services.
Government services, and just to help Sonia in doing her job efficiently and effectively, it is suggested that we can still do the $29,000 for Christmas lights and keep that moving forward. But it would just help Sonia, instead of taking that out of the 9,000 out of the American Rescue, if we took the 9,000 out of the fund balance and used the money that's left from the American Rescue Act Fund to pay for the cameras that the chief needs. So that is Sonia's plan unless somebody has a major objection. All right, hearing none, Sonia, continue on.
That's it.
All right, any questions? Good? Sonia, thank you.
Point about, good point about the debt balance. David,
Get one of them. Hey,
Good evening.
are you ready?
Yes.
All right.
So tomorrow night, you will have your quasi judicial training at 6 p.m. in here. For our June 11th meeting, we have our public hearing for our budget scheduled. And I'm assuming we will do the debt payoff option or not? Will you bring that back at that meeting or?
I don't think you need to. I don't
Okay.
think you need to.
Okay.
And Joe, you're out June 11th, is that correct? When do you leave?
The 5th.
The 5th, so we need to document that Joe will be gone from the 5th till,
So I'll be back on the 16th.
okay.
In Raleigh. I probably won't be back to Swansboro till afternoon of the 17th.
So if we could please document that and remind us at these meetings for an excused absence, please.
For the second meeting in June, we have Ricky's Retreat for a presentation. We will have the recognition of the Swansboro Historical Association as well as hearing their proposal for the Heritage Center Museum. The public hearing for the special use permit for Ward Farm is expected by then. That could vary. I have added a UDO policy amendment on street sidewalks and stormwater acceptance to our future agenda items. That could be something you'll see in the future. Did you have any other items you'd like to add to any of the meetings?
I would like to add one place and Carolina Museum of the Marines as possible one-time donations made by the town of Swansboro.
That will
And,
go in budget?
No.
In the
No,
new budget?
well, there's a request that, the reason why I don't want them as just a budget topic item is because the request is that the public gets very good visibility to these. So if the public would like to come speak against them. So we'd like them to be a part of a regular meeting topic item so that the public can see them.
But you do want that to be in the new budget for consideration, right? I just want to make sure I'm covering where it's going to go funding-wise.
Once, well, it won't matter, but once we get to that point, yes.
Okay.
I want to get it before the public first and then worry about getting it to the budget.
Affect the public hearing. Maybe a budget amendment.
That's fine. All right, Ms. Pat, you got a request?
Yeah, I'm not here on the second meeting in June. I'll be at the Naval Academy.
Oh, wow. Are you graduating?
No, but my great nephew is inducted.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. All right, did you get that? Okay. The other thing is we've got several high school successes. I think at pole vault, men's pole vault. Jumper, if you could please follow up with that. And also, request the valedictorian and salutatorian. And if Dr. Gross has any other academic folks that she would like us to recognize, we would be honored to be able to recognize the academic folks and their success. Yes, Miss Pat.
We've recognized a lot of people, but we forgot the band group because I was asked about that
The
this week.
the band what?
The band.
All right, so let's get the band and ask them to play there when they come.
So are you referring to the marching band or an orchestra? They do have a couple of different band activities.
I think you would have to ask the band director, but they've gotten some accomplishments.
Yeah.
And they're not being recognized.
So we
Sounds like
definitely need to
marching
get
band.
them. Yep, please. Thank you, Pat. That's excellent. Yeah. All right, board members, other agenda items? Okay. Thank you. Public comments coming up. All right. It might be next, actually, but let me get there. All right, go ahead.
I actually have a future agenda I'd like to bring up. It involves something that I talked to some of the commissioners, each individually, and I'm trying to get some support on this. But we have got a revenue source in tourism that we're just not utilizing. And that is public parking down there on Front Street, Church Street, and a few others. That this past weekend I was down there for 2 days. George's Pig Pickin' and Sunday on the Common, I like to call it, for music and everything. And if you don't come, you should come to that. And I saw Dwayne there, the fire chief. But I walked all of the line there. I counted 120-something cars that are basically using a free service. And I've gone to other towns, and Atlantic Beach is one of them, and Wrightsville Beach, and a few others. If you got waterfront, guess what? People are going to come. Tourists are going to come. So my strategy is that's tourism dollars that we're kind of letting walk. And I'd like to see the town increase some of its revenue opportunity in tourism. And just like the chief's policy, hey, you live here, we don't charge you. You're from out of county, you're from out of the city or whatever, out of county. Yeah, you come down here, you park. Maybe we collect a few dollars per vehicle per hour. But think about what that does over the year, over a season, and how that would help us pay for some of the future. And the reason I say that, guys, if I look at on the national picture of what's happening right now in the finance world, everyone's been predicting the recession of the future coming our way and stuff like that. And the policy that the current administration is setting is kind of setting us up for another 2008. Everybody remember what happened in 2008, right? They're going to put about $5 trillion into the market through second mortgages because people are having a hard time paying 25 and 30% on their personal credit cards right now. And then the administration's plan is to give Fannie and Freddie taxpayer-backed mortgages like they did in the 90s. And what we ended up in 2008 was what? They chopped all those up in securities, put them out there and sold them as securities. And then the people could no longer repay those second mortgages, first mortgages, and equity in their homes. And if the real estate takes a dive, that's really going to tell us what the future is going to hold. So the cost of everything is going up, inflation's going up, and our revenue streams aren't going up as much as inflation is right now. And I think we need to be strategic, and we need to serve the people of this city and look for these opportunities and think about that as strategic resource management in all aspects. That's all I got. I'd like to see an amendment, at least where we start an agenda item where we start that discussion.
So I'm going to Reader's Digest this. Downtown public parking, you would like us to consider a charging solution. Okay. Please. You got it. Done. All right, very good, folks. All right. So we don't have anybody signed up for public comment, but this gentleman, I believe, would like to speak at public comment. So if you'd come up to the microphone, your name and your address, please.
Can you hear me?
Just pull it down. It'll come down.
Might be easier to turn the microphone.
Get him, John.
I'm a retired professional engineer.
John, in the movie industry, they call you the
Oh my God, it pivots. My name is Julius W. Powell. I go by Chuck. I'm at 116 Forest Lane. I won a pole vaulting event my senior year in high school in Florida. So to hear about pole vaulting kind of brought back old memories. What's happened is me and my family are having problems with the goalpost, and I basically had responded to that because I saw that there were covenants which specifically outlined that you can't have these goalposts in the actual streets of the city and that sort of stuff. And the goalpost was very near my house and near my driveway. And my big concern is liability because, I've worked my butt off for a long, long time. And I have some things set aside, and I don't want. And we played basketball and all when I was growing up, but there get a lot of kids out there at the same time, and they're going all over the place, and there are cars coming in and going out, and I've tried to get them to back off of that, and the person who had the goal up actually he told a couple of guys in the neighborhood to get all the people from the other subdivisions and tell them they could come over here and play at our, I can't remember what he called it, our basketball goal or something like that. And for me, it's been a source of stress. And we've lived here for about 5 years, but I've come down here fishing, surfing, all that kind of stuff for years and years and years. But we've made a decision to leave and put our house on the market. And I kind of wanted to get this resolved, and I know it's a really petty kind of thing that we're talking about, but I just wanted to see if I could get it resolved. And I haven't had any feedback one way or the other as to, what's the reasoning for not moving it or making it so that they can't have these things directly in the path where you've got trucks and cars and buses and things like that, going through there. And you're dealing with kids. They're young men mostly, and you get out there and you're playing basketball. It's different when I was growing up. We didn't have things on our ears, and we could hear and we were paying attention. But when you get immersed in that game, you're not going to see it. So there's a good opportunity for someone to get hurt. And so I was trying to get an answer to that. I think I've been waiting going on maybe 6 or 8 weeks to resolve the basketball goal. Have any of you heard anything of this?
I've heard of it. I thought it had been resolved, but I've heard of the basketball goal, yeah.
Sir, are you saying that you put your house up for sale? Is it because of this issue, or?
No, but this was the final thing. A lot of it has to do with the fact that you were just talking about inflation, and market prices have gone up very high. We've been here for 5 years, and I said, I came down here all the time. We're just going to cash out and move up to around the Yanceyville area. I've got a daughter and son-in-law, and I've got family up around there. That was going to happen, but that's what really made me just push off. So that's actually a positive thing because I was sort of waffling about it. But now I'm in a situation where, I'm putting the house up for sale. There's a goal there. What's the thinking on that? I thought it was as simple as it can't be there because it just really doesn't make sense to me to,
So when you bought the house, the goal was there?
when I bought the house, there was a goal there.
Okay.
And someone, I don't know, 6, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, a truck was going down through there, making the turn in the cul-de-sac and hit the goal that was there and tore it slam up. I mean, it was incredible. And so I thought we were done with the goal. And the neighbor went out and bought another post and went ahead and, dug it out and concreted it and put it in there. And I asked him not to do it because I said, you're really not supposed to install things in this location. It's my understanding. I said it was a retired engineer, right? Yeah, that there were guidelines for doing those kind of things, and you have to get permits and that sort of stuff. So, but he did it, and and so the goal is up now. But I was asking to have it removed.
All right, any further questions for?
Yeah, is it an easement? That's a problem.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, and I would pitch in if one, and there's family, we got blackballed in the, what do you call the thing that they comment on? It was a forum, Facebook forum or something like that. We didn't say anything, but we got pretty hard blackballed. And, people saying a lot of things about it. My skin's thick enough. It was okay. But I don't think they were thinking about, it just takes one time when everything's going good like that and someone gets hurt. The child is hurt. And I know nowadays the insurance companies, their lawyers are the people paying for their health insurance. Their lawyers are not going to want to foot the bill for that. They're going to want to come after me if it happened in my driveway. At least I think that's how it's going to work.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, moving to manager's comments. You're good? Okay, any questions for the manager? Good? All right, board comments. Joe?
No, I don't have any comments right now.
You okay?
I have thoughts, I just don't have comments.
I got you. Pat?
Andrea, we're going to miss you terribly. I wish you the very best of luck, and please try and stay in touch, even if it's once in a while. Okay? Thank you.
Jeff?
That wasn't on, is something that you don't get to see that we get to see when we're approving or disapproving recommendations from the planning board, is a little statement that's written out. And I think it's in the public's interest to understand why a lot of times we ask about how the board voted, meaning how did the planning board vote. And obviously we're looking for them to be unanimous rather than somebody being off. That tells us they're really sure about what they're doing. But more importantly is a statement at the end that, like I said, y'all don't get to see. It pretty much says the staff proactively addresses issues related to impacts caused by the development in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the town residents. So that's one of the things that I look at whenever I say yes or no. And just so you guys know, that statement's in there, and go online, you'll be able to find it on the town website.
Thank you, Jeff. Doug?
Yeah, Andrea, farewell following seas. I hope your future is everything you wanted it to be. I mean that. To to the fire chief over there. Great job this past weekend on mutual support down there for Carteret. And to our police department, that I know was helping out with traffic with that incident as well. You guys do, you do our job every day that we know a lot of people don't see until they need you. Tank, we're going to need you to obviously dig in to help us keep making mistakes we keep making. That's for sure. And then come up with a strategic plan. Sonia, great job on the budget report again. And then I guess to the folks out there and our one participant here, holdout, thank you for wanting to participate and at least listen to the business of the town and the aspects that the board comes from as well as the staff to try to come together with the community and the residents here. And I want to thank everybody here tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Bill, you sure? Because usually what, you sure?
Okay, you talked me into it. No, I just want to thank Andrea as well. When I first came in, she was willing to meet with me and talk to me and about certain things. And even before, when I was a citizen and I wanted to get something done and wasn't sitting on the board, she was extremely helpful in giving me information. And also, thank you so much for that. And good luck. And you can come cook peanuts anytime you want to.
Well, Andrea, I consider it an honor that I had the privilege to see you off. You've always been a blessing to me. You've always taken me under your wing, taught me everything when I would listen. When I wouldn't listen, you wait for the next time. And you'd go, hey, can I talk to you about this? And you'd pull me in your office and you'd say, sit down. And you would go over it with me again until I got it. Sometimes it took 2 and 3 times of sitting in your office to get it. But you're so patient and you're kind and you're gracious. I'm just going to say you love the Lord and you try to live by that. And that's not everybody can do that in the workplace like you do, and you just exemplify your faith. And that's just amazing to me to watch you do that. Yeah, so we're going to miss you. And thank you that when I called you, and you know what, I'm going to take the bragging rights, that when I called you, that you came back. So appreciate it. Sarah Elliott, she is not here tonight, but what a fantastic job she did at the Memorial Day service. So please pass on to her. I've texted, I've sent emails, just a great service. I've heard several people, I even on one of my Facebook posts, Sarah Elliott. I'm like, look at that girl go. All right. So just a fantastic service. And board, with that in light, hopefully you guys are still are in agreement with doing our Veterans Day service in November. Everybody good? Thumbs up? Okay, I got some nods. So we'll get Sarah to do our Veterans Day service in November. Looking forward to that. And so, Tank, thank you. Appreciate your just blunt honesty. You don't beat around the bush. You tell it like it is. And I know it was painful for us not to accept those sidewalks and streets, but we needed to hear what you had to say in order to make a good decision. So we appreciate that. And so staff, again, in general, I love what you guys are doing. I love the atmosphere that's churning right now and the things that we've got going on. So just thank you for that. And with that, board, we need to go into closed session. So I'd like, if you would, a motion to enter closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318.11A5 to establish or to instruct the public body, staff, or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the amount of compensation and other material terms of an employment contract or proposed employment contract, and closed session for North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, folks, are we
Good
going to do
move.
it in here, or are we going to the back room? Back room,
Bye,
okay.
Dan.
We are, well, okay. We'll see you in a little bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen who are watching this video to the end, we have nothing to report at this time. We have some assignments for our lawyer and town manager, so there's nothing to report. With that said, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.